That's right. We're going to be doing a top 20 tier list for the top home service businesses that you should be either starting, acquiring, or improving this year right now. So I'm going to jump in and talk about it from a growth, a marketing, a sales standpoint. I'm going to tell you my opinion on it and why. You may have a different opinion, and if you do, drop the comments down in the comment section down below because I'm sure people will appreciate that. Let's just jump right into it. So the first one that we have down here in the bottom left, you can see we've got cleaning. So this one is like house cleaning, right? I put it in here as house cleaning. If it's residential house cleaning, then we have to go somewhere lower. If you're doing commercial cleaning and you're doing, more route work and you can kind of optimize things and, get your costs a little bit better, then maybe you could get max of like a B tier. I'm sure there are cleaning companies out there that are crushing it. But for me, from like an ease of use standpoint, I think there are better things on this list that I'm going to touch on later that have a very similar barrier to entry that's pretty low as far as cleaning goes, but are a lot better for you to get in with just like an entry level position. Because if you're starting a business or something and you want to do like house cleaning, it can be very difficult because most people just clean their own house and just, get around to it. They don't like it, but versus the price, it's not really worth the value to most people. So I think it is a little bit tough, and I'd probably even I'm going to go ahead and put a D tier if it is residential, just because that's going to be a tough one for me to get behind. It can definitely be a little bit harder to get jobs because it's not a need. It's definitely a want. And there's just something about it that it's just, the barrier of entry just makes it a little bit too easy for people to do. Now we've got junk removal. Junk removal, I think that's what I did with this image here. Junk removal is one of those ones that is so popular right now. For whatever reason, junk removal has become the newest, biggest thing, right along with dumpster rental, which we do have a dumpster rental on there. We'll talk about that one later. But for junk removal, this is one of those ones that's just, I don't know, everyone loves it right now. Now, I guess the reason is you can get a U-Haul truck, you can get just a pickup truck even. There's a million different ways, a trailer. There's a million different ways that you can get around to getting into junk removal because essentially you're just picking up a bunch of trash and bringing it to the dump for them. So it is a pretty, low-ish barrier to entry, but it does seem like the profits are somewhat decent. And it seems like there's a lot of work out there because it's not just a matter of, hey, let's go ahead and get rid of, I'm going to get rid of some junk inside my mom's house. It's a matter of like, you could be getting rid of like destroying an old shed or taking an old hot tub away and cutting it up. And like, there's different things. So I think junk removal has a lot of potential. I don't know if I would say it's S tier. Definitely not even close to S tier. A tier, maybe. I'm going to go right in the middle, B tier, just from my opinion. I do think that there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of leads in it. They're fairly somewhat cheap to get the leads. It's getting more and more competitive. But I think it's definitely going to be a B tier for me. How about gutter cleaning and just gutters in general? This is one of those ones that I'm kind of torn on because I don't know a lot of guys that are just doing gutters. Usually if it's like gutter cleaning, like you would have a tough time just doing gutter cleaning, I think, because it ends up being one of those, you get a mixture of like handyman services. There's other things on here that you definitely get mixed in there with. So I think there's definitely potential. I know just doing gutters on their own is a super, needed thing, but there's also an aspect that a lot of contractors do, gutters. Now, some of these other things, I got windows on there, flooring, different things. Contractors obviously do those. They sub them out, or they do it themselves, but in this situation, I'm going to put it in a C tier for me for gutters, just because I think it's more of an add-on to other things kind of service versus a real strong standalone that's going to, be able to scale up to a really, really strong foundation, has good profit margins, good growth, good revenue, those kinds of things. That's where I'm gonna throw it down there and see for sure. Now a little bit about me. Back when I was probably 17, 18 years old, somewhere around there, I decided that I was going to go become a pool boy because right down the street from my parents' house was a pool company. And I decided that that's what I was going to do. And that was one of the worst summers I ever had. I had the worst allergies. I had an absolute awful time and smelled awful. It was slimy. It was gross. It was just not a good time. So pools are one of those things, right? That is a seasonal business. Now, some of these other ones can kind of be seasonal, but it's 100% seasonal, right? With a pool company. So you have to figure out what you're going to do in the winter time. So you got to really, really crush it in the summer, a little bit in the spring and the opens and the closes in the fall. but it does become one of those things you really, really got to crush it when you crush it, and then, you know, kind of close down the business or figure out some sort of other thing for your people to do. So for me, because I'm not a big fan of seasonal businesses, I want to put this in C tier. Now, I will say the installation side of pools, in-ground pools, and just above ground pools, all types of pools are awesome, right? There's a lot of money in those installations, but again, you have to do it during that certain time, because up here in Rhode Island, when the ground freezes, there's nothing you can do. You're not gonna, you know, they're not installing pools in the middle of a snowstorm. So for me, I got to put it down there in C tier. It's almost like a C plus tier. It's kind of like in between for me, but it just has to go down there. Now, how many fence guys are there? I bet you there are some fence guys watching this video. So if you are a fence guy, comment down below. Let me know what you love about the fence industry, because fences are one of those ones that are kind of sneaky. I'm going to go B tier right away because I think there is really good margin in fences. It's one of those things that kind of sucks to do. So most people don't want to DIY it, so you're not competing against the homeowner as much. So yeah, I would definitely, I think fences have got to go B. There's some decent profit margin in there. Barrier to entry is somewhat low. You don't need like a ton of crazy equipment or anything. You can kind of get most of it done, residential side of things anyways, with, you know, just some basic stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna go B tier for fence installation and fence repair and that kind of stuff. Now, at this point, we have nothing in S tier, nothing in A tier. We got a couple in B tier, and we have some big ones coming up. I can already see some that I already know that I'm gonna be throwing up there in the A tier. You know, maybe one that's going to go S tier. I don't know yet. You got to stay tuned to see what that one's going to be. But make your predictions now. Which ones do you think are going to go S tier for me? And which ones of these do you currently do? And which ones do you wish you were doing instead? Because I guarantee you, you guys probably want to flip industries, because you probably see another one that makes a lot more money, a lot easier. Or should I say easier? All right, this next one is flooring. Now, flooring is... I want to go A tier with flooring. The reason I want to go A tier with flooring is because it's one of those things that's like right on the line for most DIYers, where when you actually learn how to do it, like a hardwood floor or like a luxury vinyl plank, it's a fairly easy process. It's just a headache, right? If you don't do that every day and you don't have all the tools, it's, you know, a little bit pricey to rent the stuff and, you know, get it done yourself, but it takes a lot of time if you don't know what you're doing, and you could easily mess things up. So I'm actually going to go A tier on flooring, which might be a little bit of a surprise because it's flooring, but there's decent margin in it. Again, equipment wise, it's not like super ridiculous or like super high skill. It just kind of fills like all the right spots for me. So I think it goes A tier for sure. Now we got painting. Painting is one of those ones, again, that's like in that weird area where it's not a huge barrier to entry, not a huge number of equipment or required equipment that you need. But the biggest thing that you run into with painting is it's pretty skilled labor. Like if you're going to be doing like nice edges and stuff, there's a lot of mistakes that you can make. So also speed is really important with it. So I'm going to go B tier with painting because I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a lot of people who want to get stuff painted, and from what I've seen as far as quotes go, it's actually pretty high as far as how much it costs. Now I put windows here. This is like windows, doors, you know, that kind of stuff. I want to go, this is one of those ones that I think I have to go C tier because it almost goes with gutters. Now windows and doors, I think like those are, it could probably go A tier, it could probably go S tier. There's a lot of money in it. The financing is like super accessible. There's a lot of grants and stuff from the states because you're, you know, sealing up the house and it's helping with the energy efficiency. So, you know, I'm going to bump it up to B tier just because of those things. But again, it almost feels like a lot of those things get added on by just like general contractors doing, you know, one-off projects, and then they end up doing other stuff. So I'm going to go B tier. I do think that could get bumped to an A. So maybe it's like a B plus, an A minus, somewhere around there. Now, another one that is being super popular right now is, you know, water damage, fire damage, restoration companies. I think there is so much money in it, and the reason behind that is you are working with insurance dollars. Now, insurance is one of those things, you know, like same thing with roofing. When that comes up, when you start working with the insurance dollars and you figure that game out, there is a ton of money that can be made. Now, I am a little bit wary about where I'm going to put this. I don't know. I kind of want to go B tier. I think it's kind of oversaturated. Not obviously, no market is oversaturated. You can 100% get in by doing the right things, but it definitely feels like there's a lot and it costs a lot of money. So if you want to get into doing one of these things and you want to advertise, just be ready to fork out like 10x whatever your highest number is of what you could foresee spending, because the cost per click in this kind of stuff is super expensive. It's really, really competitive. People bounce around and it's a huge trust game. So I want to go B tier with it, but I think I'm going to go C just to kind of even things out, be fair with it. But yeah, it has to. Now, this one is my favorite industry by far because there's so many things about it that make it so fantastic. So with garage doors, right? This is meant to be a garage door. This is one of those things that it kind of flies under the radar. A lot of people don't think about it. There's a lot of risk, I guess, involved, and that's because of the springs and, the tension that they're under. But once you learn how to do it the right way, there's like, not that it's not risky, but once you learn how to do it the right way and you make sure you're doing things the right way, it's actually a pretty simple thing. Like if you can do basic mechanical stuff, garage doors are like so basic, but to a homeowner, again, a lot of them, they DIY everything. They'll redo bathrooms, they'll redo anything, but they will not touch their garage door because they know somebody that got injured by a spring by trying to DIY it. So they're always going to pick up the phone and call a professional. Now, spring jobs, big profit in those. Door installs, they make a lot of revenue, but they don't, obviously have the biggest profit margins. The thing that I see the most and the people that make the most money tend to be people that focus specifically on the little service jobs where they're going out and they're doing a quick check. They're making sure the spring tensions are correct. They're making sure that it levels correctly. They're lubing things up, tightening it down, and then being on their way for a few $100. Might take them a half hour, an hour for a few $100. Little to no expense, and that's it. So for me, there's a ton of money in garage doors. I love garage doors. I think that this is, if I was going to be starting a new home service business, this is the one that I would go for because not everyone thinks about it. Kind of flies under the radar. We're going S tier with garage doors. Now, I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but for me, S tier with garage doors, absolutely. Electricians are one of those ones that I haven't done too much with specifically, so I don't have as deep of a knowledge or like, hey, these things really crush on Google ads or whatever, but for me, I think electricians are probably going to go in the B tier. I know we're kind of filling everything up because I feel like I'm putting everything into B tier because it's like, it could be good, it could be bad, but I feel like electricians kind of go B tier because you have the basic service calls, the inspections, home inspections, all that kind of stuff. And then you also have like higher ticket wiring things where, you might be wiring up some crazy setup or generator or, rebuilding the electrical in a house where you can make a lot of money. It has like a very good range. And with all the data centers and everything with AI, like there's a lot of money to be made in electrical, and being an electrician, like you can get contracted out for some massive data center jobs and make millions and millions of dollars. So I put it B tier. I almost want to go A tier, but it's almost just my ignorance that I have to put it B tier just because I don't know enough to say that it crushes. I'm sure that it does, but I'm going to put it there. Window cleaning, my old friend. Now this one I'm going to put in the, I want to put it higher. I'm going to put it C tier just because the low barrier to entry with it. It's almost like everyone and their mom can do window cleaning. If you have a basic ladder and some stuff that you can go buy, you don't even need the ladder, honestly. You can do it without the ladder, just getting some basic stuff at Home Depot and then door knocking. A lot of like teenage kids are doing it. So I have to go C tier just because the low barrier to entry. If you're doing commercial stuff, obviously it's a whole different ball game. But yeah, I have to go C tier. I will say though, in the window cleaning business, there is a lot of money to be made. Like you can easily make a really, really good living just by doing window cleaning by yourself or with a couple of your buddies. So not to say that it couldn't be B tier, but like I said, low barrier to entry makes it tough. Pressure washing. I love using my pressure washer. I'll tell you what, like I love my pressure washer at home. But doing that all day, getting all wet, and I don't know how the profit margins are. Again, this is one of those ones that kind of falls into that lower barrier to entry. You don't need a crazy amount of stuff or skill. I mean, if you are doing it where you're connecting to your own tank and everything, and you got that really professional setup, again, money can be made. Any one of these. There's not one of these, even though if I rank it in the D tier, there's a lot of money to be made in all of these. Like I said, it's my opinion and my reasoning as to why. And I'm kind of thinking about it from like a growth standpoint in the current market and how you could, optimize it and grow it. So that's why I'm going to go C tier with pressure washing. Not my favorite business, but there's definitely a lot of potential. But again, pretty competitive one, lower barrier to entry. A lot of younger kids are seeing it on TikTok, YouTube, all those different places, and they're trying it. So C tier. This one might surprise some people, and that is solar. I'm gonna go D tier, and that is for several different reasons. The one thing, you can make a lot of money, right? So if you're sales in solar, you can crush it and make millions of dollars, right? You can be crushing it, just being a salesperson for someone else's company. You could have your own installation company, be crushing it. You could be electricians, be crushing it. You could own the company, be crushing it. My problem with solar is, one, there's a lot of sketchy scam companies out of there that are, coming in, building out a bunch of systems, selling a bunch of stuff, and then closing down the business. And then when all the problems come, what happens, right? So people are having nightmares with that, just awful companies that are super lazy. Obviously, it happens with everything, but with that, they want to trust the person they're working with, and there's just a lot of sketchy issues with that. Two, the markets are just absolutely shifting the other direction. There's a lot of incentives and stuff federally and in the states that are not, supporting it anymore. So that's like hurting a lot of different things. A lot of the finance companies, because of those things, are now going underwater, and that obviously causes a whole ripple effect through it. So D tier for solar, at least in the current market. Now we've got paving. This one is going to surprise you, but I'm going A tier with paving. I have paving in there, but I'm talking paving, seal coating, anything asphalt, line striping, anything in there. That is going A tier for sure, because the profit margins on these are pretty strong. And if you can get to a point where you have this like super system built out, all the equipment, then it's pretty strong. You can get that crushing, you can be doing roads, you can be doing so many different things that it really it's big money in that kind of stuff. Definitely a much higher barrier to entry, which means if you're getting into it or you've already been in it, you have a lot more protection. Where you're going into something like cleaning, window cleaning, pressure washing, those things that are very basic, you don't really have those protections because it's anybody's free market. So I'm going to throw that up there in A tier, and I think that's a good fit. Now we've got pest control, again going C tier, because there's these like, you almost notice all the ones that have like a very strong like young door-to-door presence are like towards the bottom, and the other ones that are not are kind of higher up. I think that's kind of funny the way that I'm seeing that there. Like pest control, again, same kind of thing. A lot of annoying guys at my door trying to sell me that. It's pretty low ticket. You can make some good money if you're like building up the subscriptions or like getting people on the retainers. But for me, I'm going to go C tier with that, because again, same kind of thing. Low barrier to entry, 1,000,001 companies, and it's just not for me. We're finally starting to get to some of the really good ones. Now we've got roofing. Roofing has to go S tier. Now the thing about roofing, that is the one bad thing about it, it is very high ticket, and it gets undercut like crazy, but there's a lot of money to be made in it. Every single house has a roof. It's going to need to be replaced, and it's just, there's just infinite work basically with roofing, and it's just a matter of playing the game and getting those jobs and building the referral networks to really crush it. But there are also 1,001 people that are doing roofing, so I almost want to put it A tier, but I'm going to do an S minus, put it in the S tier, because there's so much money to be made in roofing. It's one of like the biggest revenue drivers for a lot of different people. Now dumpster rentals, this is the one that I struggle with the most, I think, on this entire list, because I love the dumpster industry. I have made a lot of money for a lot of companies inside the dumpster industry, and I've made a lot of money from them. But do we say that it is an A tier business? I think that's what I'm torn on. Now, I put junk removal B tier. I do think that dumpster rental is a lot more simplified in the way of you're dropping it, picking it up, dropping it, picking it up. You're not having to worry about all like the movement. But do I say that it's an A tier? I think it can be. I'm going to put it A tier because I think it can be. You can do it non-CDL, keep it like under a 20 yard. You can be crushing it with a dumpster rental business. You can get a ton of volume. It's fairly cheap on the lead side. As long as you're doing all the right things to turn those people into booked rentals, and you're actually selling them on the dumpsters and doing good pickups, building good reviews, referral network, like you do all the simple things that I always preach all the time, you could be crushing it with that. Profit margins are very thin. That is the biggest issue with dumpster rentals. It's, you might be renting it for $500, but after the driver, the gas, the dump fee, the actual dumpster itself, so you had to get the trucks, all the different stuff, and the marketing to actually get the client, right? You might only be profiting like $100 or $150. So it slims down quick. or it could even be lower. That could be before the marketing. So then you might spend $50 or $60 on the actual cost per acquisition. And now you're, $90 profit. It slims down quick. It's more of a volume game. But I do think there is a lot of money in dumpsters and there's a lot of money in trash. So let's go A tier with it. Now, these next two are separate for a reason. I have hardscaping right next to landscaping because a lot of companies do both, but I think the ones that specialize in hardscaping are going to go A tier. There's so much money in this. If you're doing driveways, you're doing walkways, you're doing retaining walls, you're doing, every other little thing that you can be building with the masonry and the hardscaping, there's a lot of money to be made in that, and it is pretty rough work. It's definitely tough. I guess that's kind of like masonry, hardscaping, put them both together. But I think that one is a lot better than landscaping because you guys are going to see I'm going to drag landscaping right over here to C tier. There's a lot of money. Landscaping is one of those ones that there's a lot of money to be made. My problem is that everybody and their mom has a landscaping company, and I am not even exaggerating. There's probably, I don't even know, like 50 kids that went to the same high school as me in the same years that have a landscaping company that's like busy as heck around here, right? There's infinite work for it. It's fairly low ticket, low barrier to entry. There's not a huge skill gap. Like there's a million different things. That's why when people say, hey, go get your kid to mow my lawn, or like go have your kid walk around the neighborhood with his lawnmower and mow some lawns to get some money during the summer or whatever, like when you're like 15, that's the reason why, right? It's like low barrier to entry. You don't need anything crazy. And you can make a decent chunk of money. Obviously, you can build up a big business, but you need to be able to build up those systems and scale it and, really optimize all the processes to do that. So definitely a C tier business for me just because of that. Now we're coming down to the wire here. We've got plumbing. Which one do we go with for plumbing? I think plumbing is one of those ones that I'm going to go B tier. B tier for plumbing. I do think plumbing is good. I think it's a gross job. I think it's a very needed job, though. There are a lot of people that are going to be calling people for plumbers because they have different leaks or they need to get things fixed or installed and stuff like that. But I put it right there with the electrician. I think that those are very similar trades, and I think there's good money to be made in them. But I don't know if it's good enough for me to say an A tier. It's fairly competitive, but overall, I think it's a decent one. So yeah, B tier, probably a B plus. And then we've got HVAC. HVAC is one of those ones I really want to go S tier, but I just can't because of the way that it's such a skilled labor where it takes so many years. I guess electrician is very similar in that way. I think plumbing is too, right? So you have a lot more like barrier to entry, but there's also a lot more you have to go through to get to the point of actually doing it. Really good money. There's really good incentives from like state and local government and things like that to actually, get the money. I'm sure there's different stuff you can be doing with insurance as well. Financing is pretty good for that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of money to be made in HVAC, but it's high skilled. So if you need to hire people, it's harder to find them. And overall, it just can be, kind of difficult to really get the people that you need in the places that you need them. So HVAC, really good, high-ish ticket to invest in the marketing side of it. If you lose people and you have to hire, makes it a little bit more tough. But there is definitely a huge potential there inside of HVAC. So I'm going to put it A tier. It's almost like an A plus. I almost want to go S tier with it. I actually think I'm going to go S tier with it. Final answer, we're going S tier with HVAC. I think that this is my finalized list. Let me know what you think in the comments down below and your thoughts on each one. For me personally, this is kind of where they lie. 5 minutes from now, it could be different, but who knows? So let me know down below, and I'll catch you in the next video.